Hey everybody, welcome to the Club Lorcana podcast. We are in the new studio, aka Zan's new digs, his new town home. We're still getting it all set up, so this is sort of like the day zero edition of the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Bascioni. With me, as always, is Zan Syed.
Hello, hello.
And then we have a special guest today. This is a man who needs some introduction. This is the affectionately known as the leader of the Lost Boys. He's a player in Atlanta. He recently went on a big trip with Zan up to Paris to play in the LCQs. Everybody, this is Ryan Walker. Ryan, say hi to everyone. We got a little bit of an echo in here, but that as you can see, we got the stuff. We're going to put it up. We're going to get rid of the echo in here. Just bear with us for one. But guys, we got a lot to talk about, right? You guys went to Paris.
Yep, we went to Paris.
And yeah, you're right. You were there too. And you played in the LCQs and leading up to Paris Continentals. Zan, why don't you just get us started? What was that experience like? When did you decide to go? And, overall, how was your trip, buddy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been on kind of a hot streak in terms of Disney Lorcana challenges. So I felt like, making it to Worlds would be a great addition to the hot streak. And so I'm qualified for NA Continentals, but not European Continentals. So I was like, let's go to Paris. Let's keep the momentum up. Let's try to get qualified for their Continentals, give myself another shot for Worlds. And, I land in Paris and I've, got this crazy news that I'm qualified for Worlds.
Right. Just by flying there. I'm just kidding. You're, of course, qualified for Worlds because you got first place in DLC Vegas.
Yep.
And we learned basically when you landed that the first place winners of the DLCs get qualified for Worlds. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I'm so proud that a member of this podcast got qualified for Worlds.
Thank you so much.
And then Ryan, this was your first international trip for a trading card game. That's an experience not a lot of people get to have. So talk to me a little bit about what are your overall impressions and then what made you decide to give it a shot?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically always down for an international trip, especially when it's last minute. So it basically took no convincing whatsoever, and I was just completely down to go, right?
Yeah.
So we planned it out. We were going to be there about a week in advance, right? So we had plenty of time to test for the event.
Yep.
That's one downside I have when playing Lorcana. I don't have a lot of extra time per se, so I don't get to do a ton of extra testing. So,
Sure.
It was a big part of the value gain, being able to go 4 or 5 days in advance and getting to sit down and jam literally hundreds of games.
So yeah, let's talk about the testing process. Yeah. What did you guys decide to play and how did you get there? We can start with Zan.
I mean, we decided to play green steel, but a different version of it, a more dock heavy build, less beasts, more muses, we also played Lucifer, which was hot.
Yeah. Beast is always kind of the worst card, right? You play a beast that dies to Madame Medusa, you move on with your life. Kind of sucks, but somebody like Doc gets that effect right as soon as it hits the battlefield. And in Lorcana, that's really valuable because we don't have counter spells, so your guy just resolves.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think we defaulted to green steel either, though. I mean, even weeks before the trip, there were purple steel adventures we were going on. We were going back to steel song. We didn't just default to green steel discard, right?
Oh, 100% not. I mean, amber steel aggro was definitely a top choice for quite some time. Blue red was definitely up there. We tried everything. Green steel just felt like it had a chance at beating everything. I still don't think that even if you look at this tournament, red purple ended up winning European Continentals, that it was a great choice from the get-go. I think that it was a different story when it comes to qualifiers. It was a different story when it comes to day one, and then it was a different story when it came to their top 16.
Right. So before we get there, let's talk a little bit more about the testing process. What was the house? What was the team? Was it just you two in an apartment, or did we have people come through?
So we were in a house together.
Yeah. I mean, we decided to stay in central Paris when we flew in on Tuesday because we weren't actually meeting up with others until later on that week.
Yep.
So we had 2 days just by ourselves, essentially. So we essentially started with one theory, which is green steel, right?
Yep.
And we decided we were going to put it through a gauntlet, so to speak, right?
Gauntlet.
What did that gauntlet look like?
So the gauntlet was based off of what we predicted was going to be the most played decks, right? So I put Blue Red at number 1, Amber Steel Songs at number 2, Green Purple at number 3, and Red Purple at number 4.
So red blue not on the list?
I thought I said that was the first one.
Oh, yeah, great. Perfect. I'm locked in. I'm paying perfect attention.
So those were the decks, and then we played 10 matches each against each of the decks. And so Ryan would play one and I would play the other. Most of the time I was playing the green steel side just because if there needed adjustments to be made to the deck, I needed to feel the deck from that side. I also think that when you're playing green steel, it's like if I can see Ryan's hand, that allows me to critique some of the lines that he takes, as opposed to if I'm sitting on the blue-red side, I don't really get to see my opponent's hand, and so I don't get to see as much of seeing both sides. Ryan, you go into it.
The idea being that the best testing comes when both players are playing at 100%, right?
Yep.
So you playing the green steel side, you do get some insight, and that's not the play, right? We want the play to be made every time because we want to know that the changes we're making are changing our percentage points in these matchups, right? So we started with steels, I think Amber Steel, right? Felt like we had a pretty good matchup on that by the end. Kind of moved on from that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing about our green steel list was we had what's the one drop pirate? Captain Hook. We had Captain Hooks in there, and we're going for a more traditional version of the deck. And when we were playing against Amber Steel Songs, what we realized was we weren't beating it consistently. And so we went and decided to play a more Dwarven Mine heavy build with Happies and Dwarven Mine, which allowed us to take out cards like Cinderella much more easily. That was like an interesting journey, and at first I got like a ass whooping from Ryan. It was bad. I think the score was 1-4, and then I made the changes with the Dwarven Mine, and then I won 5 straight.
Nice.
I think that's pretty accurate. I was ahead until we made those changes. I think the same can be said once we moved into green purple. I think a lot of the same changes that we made for Steel Song, Amber Steel worked into green purple. Correct?
Exactly. So we went to green purple right after, and it made total sense, right? Like the Dwarven Mine package was designed to deal with these derpy characters and low toughness characters, and that was the Dwarven Mine was cleaning all that stuff up consistently. And so we then were like, okay, we feel confident about the green purple matchup. Now this was the hard part. We went into blue red.
Yeah, and I think before we even move on from the green purple, if we have green steel players out there, I think with those two matchups, I think you would get to the point where you're in this Muses bounce situation a lot, right? Yeah. And I think that was key in getting to the Dwarven Mine, right? We'd get into this Muses situation, and I actually saw some green steel players over the weekend get in bad situations, right?
Yeah.
Where they had to draw a song to get out of this game, right? And then they wouldn't see a song for 4 or 5 draws sometimes, and they just lose, right?
Yeah, and our deck is really not designed to do that because it doesn't have a card like Ariel. And I really don't think that the key was going up to 20 or 24 songs. I tried those things, and what I realized was the deck ended up in like a really bad like holding pattern that you don't want to be in, where you're trying to bounce everything and trying to get ahead all the time. So Dwarven Mine just helped clean up all that mess, and that felt great. But so then the next thing was we decided to move on to blue red, and this is where the real test was going to be. And I lost a lot.
Yeah, I think we switched who was playing blue red at first. So you played blue red twice, I played blue red twice. Blue red was up 4-0.
it was up 4-0. Yeah, I remember I won twice, and then I switched to green steel. I think I won one. I think the score was 3-1. I won one, but then I still didn't feel great. I was like, there's something off. An adjustment needed to be made. And since we're going heavier on the muses, basically the thought process was, okay, what's the most important card in the matchup? And the most important card in the matchup was Hiram. And so now, how do you attack Hiram? Basically, the way I decided to attack it was you want to stop the item, right? So if the blue-red player is on the draw, that means even if they go popsicle, ramp into Hiram, a Benja will stop that from occurring.
Oh, great. Benja. I thought you were going to say Wildcat. I was like, yeah, Zan, get the items.
Nope, Benja. And then if they're on the play and they don't have the ramp or don't have the item on one, then I can play the Benja and stop them. So X amount of their situation is just stopped by Benja. The other thing is oftentimes they need a second item to get the other two cards. And so what I noticed was if you just lower that amount, I started seeing Hirams that were not activating, that weren't triggering multiple times. And that completely changed the matchup. Now, the biggest thing is it's kind of like a balance beam of like you're trying to make a certain matchup better, but are you making all the other matchups worse? And are you doing it to the degree of like now your deck doesn't work in those matchups anymore and you have to just start over?
Great.
Or is it possible that you're not going to be able to beat all the matchups and you're just going to end like that's how you're going to end up, which is completely possible. There are a lot of decks like what do you call it? Amber Steel Songs is one of them where blue-red is a terrible matchup, but you just still keep playing the deck, right? So you accept that there's a bad matchup that exists. So that was the biggest problem. So how did we solve that problem?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing was after blue-red, we went into purple-red, right? A lot of the same changes we made for blue-red lined up really well into purple-red.
Yeah. Well, I think our score ended up being 8-2.
Yeah, wasn't close.
Was not close at all.
Yeah, so we felt really good about that. So at the end of that gauntlet, it was time to go back to the beginning of the gauntlet to make sure the changes we made all the way through didn't take us out of the Amber Steel and the green-purple matchups, right?
Yep. And we were pretty dominant in every matchup.
Great. It's actually gauntlet. Did you know that?
True.
What?
True?
Yeah.
Really?
Gauntlet.
Yeah. When it's like a series of difficult tasks, it's a gauntlet.
The more you know.
I did not know. He is an English major, so.
I learned that in an editing class that I had to take. So I just thought I'd let you know because otherwise my brain...
Episode 17, the gauntlet.
Can't keep going. It's a gauntlet.
Oh my God, the gauntlet.
We're past 17. 17 of what? We're on. This is episode.
No one knows.
Insert here.
We gotta quit doing this podcast. I think it's run its course. We didn't expect that we would do this for 20 weeks in a row, all consecutive, not missing one.
All right, let's bring this back home. Okay, so we felt like our Emerald Steel deck was great, but when we were playing against blue-red, and when I was playing blue-red, I couldn't help but shake that the deck had only gotten more consistent. It's one of the best decks. Sail has definitely made the deck a whole lot better, and that should be our backup deck.
Okay, so we landed at the end of testing. Green Steel's what we're going in for, and then red-blue is the backup deck.
Yep.
Talk to me about what would make you choose a backup deck in that spot, because I have a couple things off the top of my mind, namely like what the metagame looks like at the LCQ. So I guess we can just move into the LCQs. When you get there, you can just right, for a lot of our listeners are from the United States. So paint a picture. Is this in a convention hall? Is this what?
It is in one of the most beautiful estates I've ever freaking seen. It's outside of Disneyland, Paris, and it's like a giant mansion.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how many of our listeners are big Disney adults or Disney fans, right? I had never been to a Disney property like this.
Yeah,
I've been to a lot of the parks, but not a property. I've never stayed on site. It's massive. It's beautiful for sure.
Yeah. Something close to this, I guess there's a Ritz-Carlton outside of Orlando that I went to, but this was like 10 times bigger and way nicer.
So it's like a bigger, nicer Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah, basically. Okay. With Mickey Mouse everywhere.
With Mickey Mouse everywhere.
Yeah, it was insane.
That sounds kind of scary. I'm glad you made it out. So you get there, and then, so I guess you guys are signed up for an AM and a PM.
Yep.
The plan A is to play green, steel in the AM.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can get into how the plan turn out. Green, how was your AM, Ryan?
Yeah, my AM started off pretty good. I started off with green, purple. In my first matchup, a matchup I felt really good about.
Yep.
I pretty much did the thing against green, purple. 2-0'd him. Did a lot of Dwarven Mines to him.
Let's go.
Dwarven Mines, move Doctor Dwarven Mines.
Help me Mulligan. What's doing the thing against? Help me alter. What's doing the thing against green, purple? What am I looking to do?
Yeah, a common play pattern was, if I have Shift Diablo, great. Let's Shift Diablo. I would commonly throw out the Dwarven Mines on 2.
Okay.
And then on turn 3, you can play a happy, move happy to Dwarven Mines.
Okay.
So you get to do an additional 2 damage to clear a bonsai or a second merfolk they put down. And this whole tempo strategy they had is now dead in the water. I've got an active Diablo. I'm drawing cards, and you're just dead in the water.
Sure. All of your guys might enter the battlefield dead because I can just keep moving things back and forth between Dwarven Mine. Yeah, and one key to that, honestly, was the hand knowledge too, right? So you play Diablo on 1, I get to look at your hand, right? I see your Ursula, so I get rid of my songs if I need to. I get to see if you have either a fox or a crab, right? So if you have a fox or a crab and a 2 strength character already on board, you just get to clear my Dwarven Mines. So I'm just not going to play my Dwarven Mines on 2, right? But if I see that you don't have the ability to take it off, I'm going to put my Dwarven Mines on, and I'm going to kill all your characters for the next 3 turns, right?
Exactly. And there's sometimes where you look at someone's hand and you're like, this Dwarven Mine's not going to be great. And then they ink that fox or the crab, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I win the game.
Okay. Very interesting. So keep an eye out, guys. Inking your foxes and crabs might not be the move against green steel anymore. And so, okay, round 1.
Yeah, so quick 2-0 on green purple in round 1. Move on to round 2. I run into a purple steel.
Okay.
This particular purple steel happens to be running Grab Your Swords.
Nice.
Which he top decks off an empty hand to basically punish me for having Prince John, Diablo, etc. on the field. Not a matchup we tested a lot, unfortunately. So one, I probably shouldn't have kept the Diablo on, but I unfortunately bowed out in round 2 of that one to purple steel.
Okay.
Yeah. Purple steel was number 5 on my list. And I actually think that if you put too many decks on your list and you go too far deep trying to test too many decks, you're going to end up in a really bad place where you're playing too many games that don't matter.
Especially when there's only 2 of you. I mean, you can only go so far or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. If we're going to do a gauntlet,
it's actually Gauntlet.
No, gauntlet. And it's 40 games, and then you're going to reverse that gauntlet. That's another 40 games. You're going to be mentally fatigued by just playing those games at 100%, So playing against purple steel, also purple steel with Grab Your Swords, I usually like to call those kamikaze decks where they can't really beat anything except for very specific matchups.
Yeah.
Right? Like imagine if you're playing that deck and you play against either red purple or blue red. And we believe that blue red is going to be the most popular deck. What is your grab your swords going to do?
How come when I play blue red, I never play against purple steel with grab your swords? How come that never happens? When I play blue red, it's only the mirror, and they always have it.
Yes,
the mirror has it. Okay, so Zan, how did the AM tournament go for you? Round 1, what did you face?
Round 1, I faced the bye.
You got a bye?
Yeah, my opponent did not show up.
Oh, is it? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, my opponent was not there, so I got a bye. I was happy, but at the same time, I like to play, and I also think of each round as momentum.
Okay,
and so I don't necessarily think of bye as free as everybody else thinks.
Right, because you're sitting down, your opponent's already won round 1. They presumably played a real round. They sit across from you and you're their second guy, but that's your first guy. So there is, and it's weird because that's really hard to quantify because somebody would be like, well, what play do you think you'd make differently? And you might be like, none, but I agree with you that there's something there for momentum. So, great. So round 1, you got the bye, you had some extra time, you went and got some donuts.
No, so I decided to scout. So since these are pods of 32 players, you can go walk around and see what you could potentially be playing against. And so I decided to walk. I didn't exactly get only my pod just because the table numbers were a little confusing. I ended up getting like 2 or 3 pods worth of data. And what that was actually doing was more so informing me of what the meta overall is in this part of the world. And if I don't make it to intercontinentals through the first qualifier, that what I should do for the second qualifier. And to my surprise, Amber Steel Songs was number 1, not number 2.
The deck you saw the most of.
Exactly. So even though I had pretty good knowledge of what was going to happen in the main event, what was happening in the qualifiers was complete opposite.
Wow.
Right? Where Blue, Red, and Amber Steel Songs had switched spots. And so basically, I'm already in the mindset of, okay, if this doesn't go well, I'm thinking of a Blue, Red list that I would want to switch to.
Okay.
Because I want to punish all these Amber Steel Songs players, and then since these are not the main event Blue Red players, I can beat up on them by a skill gap.
Yeah.
So so I get paired in my second round. I get paired against Amber Steel Songs. No surprise. I win the die roll, but I end up seeing the worst hand I've ever seen in my entire life.
Which is not bad in Lorcana because you can alter it. You just ship it back and get the best hand you've ever seen.
I shipped 7 and I got a worse hand. I didn't have a 1-drop or a 2-drop.
Yeah. Who needs them, right?
Yeah, my opponent had the super nuts.
Okay, so
I was able to get the game to a certain point where I win if they don't top deck a Long Came Zeus. And they top decked the Long Came Zeus, which I was very happy about. I was like, I'm going to just play this one turn at a time, one turn at a time, one turn at a time. All of a sudden, I'm going to win this game. I played an Ursula. I have a song ready. I can wipe their whole board next turn. And I'm like, I've already seen their hand.
Yeah.
Because I had to play, because I drew 3 1-drop Diablos in a row. So
they need to draw a card that kills Ursula. And what even does that? Pretty much nothing.
It was only a Long Came Zeus. And I looked at his face and it was I was like, what the? He drew it? He goes, Along Came Zeus. And I'm like, surprise.
Surprise.
And then we get to game 2 and the same thing happens where I mulliganed 6 cards. I kept a 2-drop Ursula. Looked at his hand. He had no songs. And then every turn after, he drew a song. And it was a perfect song every single turn, which happens. But again, I put myself in a spot where he needs to draw a Long Came Zeus. And he draws a Long Came Zeus and kills me. And basically I was like, okay, I don't want to be in this position where a Long Came Zeus does anything.
Right.
And so let's go get food. So Ryan and I leave that convention center and we're like, okay, let's go get some food at this place that smells terrible. I don't know why. They had a gas leak or something. It looked amazing, but there was some gas leak or something that was going on and it just smelled like farts.
Paris might just smell that way. It's possible.
No, it does not. I promise you. Every place was divine except for this one restaurant that we decided to walk into that smelled like farts. And so we walk in.
Yeah. So we had a couple hours, right? We had a couple hours between AM getting kicked out in round 2 and starting the PM qualifier. So it was regroup time, right? We had this plan beforehand, that blue red in the back pocket, right? Now we go get some lunch and it's time to, talk this through. Is this the move? What the room look like? Why are we switching? What's our deck look like?
I mean, if the room's yellow steel, blue red's like the natural solution.
100%. There was a couple of other factors, right? So, we have some great blue-red players surrounding us, right? Moyen, who we're rooming with, who's already in the main event. Din, who I'm on the team with, right? And these two players, I'm hearing them talk to me about what they believe is the best way to go for blue-red. And then on top of all of them is the French players and what they're doing, which is even crazier, which is like McDuck Manor and like what is happening.
You got to play McDuck Manor, you got to play Mufasa, Vanellope. I mean, you got to play blue-red cards.
They didn't play any of the other cards except for McDuck Manor.
Right.
But basically, when Ryan and I sat down, I was trying to, I had an idea that I was going to play blue-red, but you don't really think about your plan B because you want plan A to work. That's the whole plan. And it didn't work for either of us. And so now we're thinking, all right, how do we build this blue-red after digesting all the information, right? And it's not, you can't really build that blue-red until you get punched in the face, we got punched in the face and now we got to react. And so we're trying to build the best blue-red that we can for this field. So we're building it.
Usually it's everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. In your case, it was now that we've got punched in the face, it's time to make a plan.
That's what you're supposed to do in Lorcana. Yeah.
It sounds way better.
I guess so. So blue-red, do you want to talk about the deck that you ended up putting together?
We can talk a little bit about some of the stuff. What was going through your head, Ryan?
Yeah. So it was a complicated decision process for me, right? And I'm kind of regrouping there. And I think you got to remember as well, this is my first, I've been to DLCs. This is my first overseas trip to go play a last chance qualifier to sneak into this event, right? I kind of spent a lot to get over here, right? I played probably 1,000 matches of green steel. I know the thing like the back of my hand. And I played 60, 80 games of blue-red probably just this week. But prior to that, I am not a blue-red guy.
Yep.
I watched Zan play blue-red, and he looks like a blue-red savant, right? I mean, this guy is just throwing his cards around and never going to go to time with blue-red, that's for sure.
I mean, what do you mean, Ryan? It's easy. You go turn 1 popsicle, turn 2 ramp, turn 3 high room, and then from there, you just figure it out. You kill all their guys. You play your Tamatoa. What's to know?
Sure. Easy. So, I mean, I am not 100% to make this switch at the moment, right? I kind of give Zan the confidence boost. Zan, I think you're the best blue-red player in the room. I'm being straight up with you, right? I said that to you.
Yeah,
right?
He did.
I think you play blue-red and you get out. You're playing tomorrow.
Yeah. And a part of this equation is where we don't have all the Grandma Talas. There are 0 vendors. There are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of Lorcana players in this tournament hall, and there is not one vendor.
Do you think a guy selling sleeves would have done pretty well in the?
I mean, that guy would have sold out in a millisecond.
It's like water in a desert, sort of. Do you want to sell this or what? Yeah,
that was the craziest part to me. Is we traveled all this way and we can't. I was like, Grandma Tala, they'll be selling it for what, €1 each. I'm okay with that. Nope.
Yeah, so I kind of slow played Zan from that point. He was going back and forth on, how many talas do I keep? How many talas do I give you? And I basically looked at him and said, I'm not playing blue-red. You play blue-red, I'll keep playing green steel.
These are my 4 talas.
What I wanted him to do at that point was make the best blue-red deck that he wanted to play in the next qualifier, right?
Yeah.
I was not going to take a tile away from him if that's what he wanted in his deck. So I told him I wasn't playing blue-red.
Well, what you can do is you can watch him build the best deck, and then you can go talk to some French person that you just met and see if you can borrow some talas from them, because you probably get some talas.
If you saw how confusing that room was, you were not, like, you can't have a conversation with anybody.
What? You're in an Alice in Wonderland room? What are you talking about?
Yeah, everybody was just lost in the sauce. I could not talk. Basically, whenever I had conversations, they were outside of that room. Whenever I went inside that room, I was like, where the fuck do I go?
It was tough for you to find out where you were supposed to sit.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Zan builds his list, writes down the deck list, the whole thing. He is locked in on blue-red. That's when I let him in on the secret. I'm going to play blue-red as well.
Wow.
So that I'm going to switch my deck as well. The one thing we talked about for my blue-red experience was going to be, I have 60, 80 reps this week against the top 4 decks. The problem is I haven't done the mirror a lot.
Exactly.
Right? Not something we tested.
The blue-red mirror? Oh, what's to know? It's you play the popsicle on 1, Ramspell on 2, Hiram on 3. Figure it out from there. Kill all their stuff, Tamatoa at the end, get all the lore. What's to know?
So I wanted to just give him a quick breakdown of what he can expect in the mirror. And since blue-red was still the second most played deck in the room, it was still going to happen. And so I was like, okay, you got to reserve certain cards. Like, there are certain secret uninkables here, and you got to figure out what those cards are. And then you just got to kill their Hirems. Do not let their Hirems quest. If you let their Hirems quest and draw additional 2 cards, you are in a very unfavorable position. Is there anything else I told you?
Yeah, I think that was pretty much the basis of it.
You have to say what the secret uninkable cards are, or our viewers will kill you. Like, you can't leave it like that.
I mean,
what are they?
they?
Yeah.
Maleficent Dragon at a certain point, right? Like, if you have it on like turn 1, 2, or 3, then you probably should ink it. But after that point, you should try to keep it in your hand.
Yeah.
Great Stone Dragon.
Great Stone Dragon is an all-star. I love having a Great Stone Dragon in play. It is euphoric. You never have to ink again. They have to ink. You end up with 9 cards in your hand, and they have 2, and you're just like at 13 ink, and they're at 10. And you're like, Great Stone Dragon, you saved my bacon.
Exactly. So, like, we were rolling. So you walk in. What do you play against round 1?
Yeah, so we sit down. Round 1, we're going to go into the blue-red mirror, right? I assume the guy sitting across from me has probably put in 3 to 4 times the amount of games on blue-red that I have. And I got to go beat him in a best of 3.
Bold assumption, Ryan. This is an LCQ. Some of these guys are just like, some of these guys are trying to qualify for Disneyland, okay?
Yeah, so I end up beating my first round opponent 2-1 in the mirror.
Yep.
I think you actually got to walk up for game 3 because you wrapped up your game early.
Yeah, I watched the end of game 2, which was sick.
Yep.
You had like infinity items. I had never seen a blue-red player with that many items. you used your lucky dime for like 8?
1,000.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, he could do nothing.
That was amazing. And then I watched you play game 3.
Yeah, game 3, I think he played a Mufasa, took back 2, de-ramped himself, and then I ice blocked Medusa.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. That felt good. Anyway, 2-1 the first mirror. I started to pick up steam from there. I was feeling good. Round 2, second mirror.
Yeah.
Right. So I 2-1 another red blue mirror in round 2. Move on to round 3. Purple Steel again, the deck that put me out in the first LCQ.
Purple Steel's tough.
Hard revenge 2-0'd the Purple Steel.
Yeah.
The games didn't feel all that close, honestly. They would get out to a lead, but it wasn't enough of a lead that I didn't have control. Right, I had ramped. I could easily stop him from luring for several turns and then just take over the game late. So, if you looked at the lore totals, maybe it was 20-16 at the end, but the games didn't feel all that close.
Was it the same guy?
It was not the same guy. That would have been
good.
That would have been epic.
You'd have been like, go ahead and grab your sword, Yugi.
So after round 3, is when I get a text from Zan that says "call me." So maybe that's a good segue into your LCQPM.
Yeah. So round 1, I played against Emerald Steel. It was like an Emerald Steel that was designed to beat other small character decks. It was like, play this 2/4 for 4, uninkable. Whenever you play a Floodborn or no Dreamborn, deal 1 damage to all your opponent's characters.
Dreamborn?
No, I think Floodborn.
It has to be Floodborn.
It's
We currently don't have any Dreamborn synergies, and I'll let you know when we get them.
I'm sorry. Floodborn, my bad. So Floodborn, and so I played like this, Tamatoa, and it got like 3 or 4 damage on it from this character.
Ouch.
But it was an easy 2-0. And then the next round, I played against Blue-Red, and my opponent was okay, but I'm not sure if they were making the right decisions because I had like 9 cards at the end of every game, and they had 0.
Yeah. So what happened? How did this happen?
How did this happen is the real question.
Holy cow.
So I just 2-0'd them. And then in round 3, I played against Green Steel, and it was same story, just
a breeze.
Not close. Well, game 1 was actually really close because a Emerald Goofy comes down.
Ooh.
And it just catches me off guard. And they're just like, Prince John, quest with everything. Goofy, quest for 3. And then they like gave it resist 2 twice.
Nice.
So I was like, how am I going to get rid of this? I have to find this Sisu.
Yeah.
I ended up finding the Sisu, and I just won the game.
And then, kill all their stuff, Tamatoa at the end, gain all the lore. What's to know? I don't understand why you guys are thinking it's called. Every game's the exact same. Anyway, then I used my red cards to kill all their stuff, and then I played a Tamatoa, and then I won.
Yeah. And then then the judge comes around and hands out some packs, and I'm like, why are you giving me packs?
Nice. I got packs. Wait a minute. I'm not supposed to get packs.
Yeah. So the packs were for side events. And so once you were eliminated from the LCQ, you played in a side event for extra packs. And basically I wasn't in the side event. I was actually undefeated, and I had sat at the wrong table.
So the judge comes around, puts some packs in front of you, then you realize you're at the wrong table.
Yep.
So our viewers are going to be wondering, how could this happen? How could ostensibly the best Lorcana player have sat down at the wrong table? But we've been foreshadowing this whole time that the inside of this room was some sort of maybe like Cthulhu-esque labyrinth where nobody could talk to anybody and everybody's brains are falling out of it. Talk to me about, so when I hear table numbers, I think 1 through 1,000, maybe 1,100. And you get your 1 on your phone, and that's where you go sit. Is that not what was going on in this room?
So at this point, I completely understand how the system works, just because, after I sat at the wrong table and was DQ'd from the event, I was like, how could I get this wrong, right? And I was like, I need to learn the system.
An important distinction is that you were dropped from the event. DQ is like a
dropped from the event. Yes, I was dropped from the event. Okay. So the way the system works is there is table 1 through 100. Not once, but 5 times. All right. So now that we have established that there are 5 1s and 5 100s, we're going to go through the coloring system. All right. So now there is an amber section. There's a ruby section. There's an amethyst section. There's a steel section and
sapphire, probably,
and sapphire. 5 colors, but there's 6 colors in.
I think they stopped at 5.
Yeah, but they only had 5 colors.
Thank God.
Okay, so there's 5 colors. So ruby is actually the real 1 through 100, and amber is 101 to 200.
Consistently all day, those colors were those numbers?
Yeah, I think we're overcomplicating it a bit, but all the 100s were ambers, all the 200s were another color, all the 300s were another color, right? But there are 5 5s. There are 550s. There are 570s.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And the number the most important thing is the number that we get on our MTG Melee. So I got number 151.
Right. Which isn't a number that you guys have described.
There is no table number named 151. So my actual table was Amber section 51. And so in round 1, I was 51. No, I don't know what number I was actually round 1, but I was in the Ruby section.
Okay.
And then in round 2, I was actually not in Amber or Ruby. I was in Amethyst section.
Okay.
And then in round 3, I went and sat in Ruby section.
So right away, something is a red flag for me is an LCQ is a 32-person pod. So that whole thing can be kept on tables 1 through 100. So it could have stayed in the same section the whole time.
It could have just stayed at 1 through 32.
Correct. And then the second pod is, 33 through 64, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
but I was supposed to go sit at Amber. So a third color in 3 rounds.
Oh.
And I was like, it just felt natural for me to go sit at Ruby where we were sitting originally.
Yeah.
And if you're doing well, you would think you'd end up at lower numbers.
You're at table 1. There's also at this point only 8 people in the tournament. So
yeah, so I'm feeling great. I got eliminated.
So anyway, got eliminated. Go to the judge. Hey, I sat at the wrong table. Is there anything you can do? Obviously, the answer is no.
I fell on my knees. Yeah, so I went up to the head judge, and I asked her. I was like, "What can I do?" Nothing can be done, and I literally just fell on my knees because I knew that I had just traveled from from the U.S. to Paris for this, for this shot, and I'm like. Done this Olympics of figuring out what I'm supposed to be playing, and I haven't dropped a game.
Do you think you have the best deck in the room?
I have the best deck for the LCQ, and then I have the best deck for the main event with Emerald Steel, because Emerald Steel was built for the main event.
Oh.
And Blue-Red, the version of Blue-Red that we are playing, is the perfect deck for the qualifier.
It's a brutal qualification for Disneyland for sure.
So I'm like, I know what I've just cost myself. I'm not going to say, hey, it's 100% their fault. There's accountability here, and I'm going to take it. And but I will say that I'm not the only one that sat at the wrong table.
Yeah, I mean,
and they did such a great job. It was such an amazing experience. Would I go back again next year if I have the opportunity? If the stars align, yes, I would. And I think that their goal is to continue to improve. So I just want to say, the stuff that they're doing is amazing. But the experience that I had in that moment was if you just look at that, and it was my worst experience.
Yeah, of course.
If I've been to 1,000 tournaments, I have never sat at the wrong table. I called Jeremy, and Jeremy was like, remember that one time you sat at the wrong table? And I was like, yeah, there was this older lady who sat at the wrong table.
Right. One time someone sat at the wrong table against you, and you played around, and it was like a contentious, tense round. And then she wasn't even supposed to be sitting there the whole time. Yeah, it was brutal. This was in Virginia. This was in Roanoke.
Oh no!
Yeah, this lady was upset about Zan's kind of whole deal.
Yeah, that was a weird interaction. But I did want to preface by saying, when I did go to that round where I did sit at the wrong table, I handed my phone to my opponent, who confirmed that they were the person that I was playing.
Yeah, you were like, is this you? And they were like, yeah.
Yep. And so a lot of variables had to have gone wrong, like the fact that my actual opponent didn't show up to their round.
Right. 2 people missed their table spot for this to even have happened, because it seems like some person would have been behind you like, hey, you're in my seat, which is usually how this gets resolved.
Yeah. So that I just wanted to add full context, because I feel like people would be like, hey, why didn't you just check if that was your opponent. I did.
So for me, the rest of this trip, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell people that I lost round 3. People are going to be like, how'd round 3 go? And I'll be like, sometimes you don't get there.
So let me close 2-1.
It was a close 2-1. Exactly.
Let me tell you what happened after that.
Sure.
I went to the head judge, and the head judge told me, blah, blah, blah. I can't do anything. I fell on my knees. I got up. I walked over to my opponent, picking up my stuff, and my opponent feels terrible.
Sure.
And it's like, please take the packs.
The packs? You can have them. You can have the packs.
This guy hates packs. Also.
And I'm like, I cannot take the packs.
I can't take the packs. I wasn't in this event.
I wasn't in this event.
I shouldn't get these.
I cannot take them. That is illegal for me to take them.
I don't think it's illegal for you to take them, but sure. I keep your packs, please.
It's against.
They'd be shame packs.
But they felt so bad that they were like, please at least like split the packs with me. I was like, okay, fine. I just gotta get out of this room now.
Okay. Yeah, you do. You gotta get out.
I shake their hand and I walk out of the room. I'm so upset. And at the same time as I'm leaving the room, there's someone who's following me who wants me to sign their playmat, which is very sweet.
Very nice.
But at the same time, Frank Karsten is walking in, and he's
dang
like,
it,
Frank, what? Like, people are just looking at me and they're like, why does this guy look so upset? And Frank's like, how are you doing in the tournament? I'm like, I just had the worst experience ever. Tell the whole story. And then I go on to sign this person's mat because they waited my whole match to do that. And so I signed their mat and then I ran out of there. And basically, by the next day, everybody knew.
Right. Everybody knew.
Everybody knew. We went, like, I was like, I don't want to go back. But, like, nobody really knows.
I would say don't go back. just my opinion is like, well, that's over with. I'm going to Disneyland.
It's right there.
I'm going to go see Elsa. Like,
everybody knows is so crazy that Ryan and I woke up and we went to a croissant shop.
Yeah.
And we're still far away from the convention center.
Yeah.
And 2 guys walk up to us and are like, what happened?
Well, it's a small town. It's Paris, France. What are you going to do, right? Oh, my God. Everybody knows. That's crazy.
Yeah. I feel as bad as you could possibly feel.
I'm so sorry. I mean,
because no one's going to understand. Everybody's, I'm like, I'm already harsh on myself. I'm like, yes, I know I'm dumb.
It could happen to anybody, This isn't even the dumbest thing we've ever heard of happening to somebody.
Oh my God. The thing that really bothers me is I just wanted to lose because I lost playing Lorcana.
Of course.
I just wanted to know what would have happened. Would I have made it?
So what is the Saturday experience like? You get there and what happens?
I'm going to let Ryan fill that in.
Great.
Because I think that his perspective is more real because I was dying inside.
Right.
Yeah.
So fast forward. I lost my round 4. I actually played against a really cool opponent. His name's Harlan Sweet. I don't think it's his actual name, but I did know that he generally plays Sapphire Steel.
Yes.
So I went into that match assuming he may be on Sapphire Steel. I won match 1, 20-19.
Extremely close.
This is not your grandmother's blue steel, though.
I'm so glad you said blue
alert.
steel. You kept saying Sapphire Steel.
blue.
They're going to think we're a cop. If you keep saying Sapphire Steel, they're going to be like, oh, Ravensburger pays you guys.
Great.
That's crazy.
He has a very unorthodox blue steel. I don't know if the list is out yet. You should probably go look at it.
Yep.
It has the new Alice with Ward. It's playing McDuck's Manners. It's, I think I'm still favored in that matchup. Blue-Red's still favored in that matchup, but I don't know that I had the plays in me necessarily to work around all of these unique cards that I'm seeing for the first time, right?
But it sounds like he's putting a lot of pressure on opponents, right? Like McDuck Manor and Alice is a lot of lore very early, so that's probably a version that's almost best case scenario against Blue-Red. Blue Steel's not typically that great against Blue-Red because they're pretty weak to the card Be Prepared. Yep.
And Sisu. Because they usually have cards like Cogsworth.
Cogsworth basically has a big label on it that says bad against red cards, yeah.
Yeah, and this deck's putting pressure on you, though, right? So it's saying, I'm threatening to win the game before you ever think about Sisu, right?
Yeah.
So, game 1, I win 20-19, squeak it out with like a Pirate's Life, right? I think I sing Pirate's Life. I'm feeling pretty good. 20-19, right?
Yep.
He comes back and gets game 2, I'm pretty sure, on the play.
Yep.
So he forces a game 3. He then steps away, actually asks for a bathroom break. He's a great player, and I don't know if he's going to hear this podcast, right? I think I had him at that point, right? Like, he's kind of red in the face. That was another tough game. He steps away. Probably a good move on his part, right? We've talked about this. It's kind of a technique you use to kind of refocus, recenter, right? While he's gone, I'm thinking about these crazy cards he has.
Just so you know, your move in that instance, and this is like dark trading card game technology, so don't tell people I'm telling you this, but you go to the bathroom too.
100%.
You stand right next to him, and you pee louder.
So he pees in this stall. You go right next.
You go right next to him, and when you're peeing, let out one of the let one out. They're done. They can't even draw their 7 cards. I've done it before. It's dirty. It feels harsh, but I did it. Shout out Will Pulliam, MTG. I totally beat that guy in a bathroom break once.
I've never done that on the way.
I've never done that.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, he comes back. He gets a tight game 3. I don't have the answers. I get into uninkable trouble. I have to start inking my answers, right? I got to have board control before he plays his McDuck manners, and I don't get it. He gets a game 3, and he goes on to win the round 5 that gets you qualified to play tomorrow. So neither of us are playing on Saturday, and we just flew to Paris.
Yeah, and that was
not the plan.
Not the plan.
I mean, qualifying for Disneyland Paris, that's not so bad. I've never been. You like Disney. Ish.
Yeah. So we're gonna go to the venue tomorrow, right? We spent too much money on this to not play some of these side events. We're gonna get a lot of Cusco's and Baymaxes.
Cusco's and Baymaxes. Yeah. That's like money.
We sit down at one of the constructed side events, thinking, hey, Zan, we've done this all week. You want to play like 20 more games against each other? We haven't had enough of this.
Sure.
So we sit down. We start with we'll play a best of 3 to get these tickets out of the way. I think by the end of our first best of 3, there starts to form a queue, I think they would call it in this part of the country.
Europeans love to queue
up to play Zan, right? First time over in Europe, people wanted to play against him.
Yeah, that was a really, I mean, it was a humbling experience because, in Magic, it's a bunch of guys. It's a bunch of dudes. And in this,
true,
it's a bunch of families and kids. It's like someone's mom is coming over and it's like, will you play with my child? And you're like, what did you just say to me? And it's like, dang, yeah, I mean, it was really cool. And it really let me see what Lorcana can be for the future. It's like this is a much closer game to chess. That's way more interactive, because of the characters, because people watch these characters growing up. It just ties everything in beautifully. And I really do think that this can be played at schools. It's just the next level.
Sure.
And a lot of the variance has been taken out. So when you make mistakes, it's on you. It's not what it's not necessarily what the top of the deck wants for you, So so a queue formed. I would say one of the most memorable opponents was one of these kids, probably a 10-year-old girl who was in an Alice Wonderland costume. And I was like, at first I'm like, oh, this is going to be a chill match. And she's playing green steel.
I don't think you've ever had a chill match, but it is.
And she was really good.
Oh, great.
Very good. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, this is her parents just wanting her to play. And then as soon as I started playing against her, I was like, she knows what she's doing. And she's made changes to her deck that reflect on what she likes about the deck. And she went way heavier on the morph package.
Yeah.
And that was scary because she had all the Tinkerbells in the world.
Morph is cool.
And morph is cool.
Sorry.
Yeah. It went all the way up to Prince Arthur, or is it King?
Prince Philip.
The 7-drop Floodborn.
It's 7-drop Floodborn Steel.
Oh, it is Prince Arthur. Whoa.
Yeah, and
nice.
That caught me off guard. I did end up making her discard it. which is the reason why I wouldn't play it.
Right. Well, maybe that's a good learning experience for young. That's why, by the way. Did you say that when you made a discard? You were like, that's why.
I didn't have to say that. You know what her response was? My dad made me play this one.
Oh, Dad, what are you doing?
And I was like, okay, you're better than your parents.
Wow. So you had was it a little line, big line? Would you say you were the biggest player in the room?
I don't like to answer questions like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that, right? There's some big names in the room, right? It was great for me. I kind of got the run off of the queue. I always had a match to play. If they were waiting to play Zan, it was like a gym battle, right? They got to beat the Geodude trainer boss before they get to the Onyx.
To Brock.
Oh.
Yeah, I was that guy.
This is the Pewter City Gym.
Yeah. I was getting good games, though. I don't know that I dropped a match all day after I lost to Zan. So we were just farming packs all day, watching the stream up on the screen, listening to French Moana. That was cool.
It was beautiful, dude.
Ravensburger Wizards used to do a thing called spell slinging, where you could go to their GP and play against some of the pros or whatever, and have a special queue for that. So it sounds like some organic spell slinging happened at the Continentals tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time. After when I got done explaining for the 100th time what happened in my match. In the LCQ, every other experience was just so positive.
Right. Great.
Yeah, it was. I was playing the whole time. There was a break between AM and PM, and I was playing people on the floor.
Okay. Is there ever a party that's like, I don't really feel like playing Disney Lorcana anymore? I feel like that could happen.
People were asking that, and I was like, no, I could play forever.
Okay, well,
and
good.
One person couldn't make it from AM to PM, so I was like, if you see me in the park tomorrow, I'll bring my decks.
Okay.
I'll play against you.
You're a psychopath. Bro, relax.
Well, I get it. A lot of players will not have an opportunity to come to NA, and I might not be in Europe anytime soon.
Right.
Or maybe ever again.
Well, okay. I mean, sure. Yeah.
And so this might be their only opportunity. And if I'm their person that they watch on YouTube that they learn from, then, I get it. You know what I mean? I remember when I first started playing Magic and I would fall asleep while watching the pros play. How inspirational it would have been when I was in college to have played against one of these people, or someone wanting to play against me just because we were at the same event. And so I think that it's like a small sacrifice of time, especially in an event where I don't have anything else to play for, that could be transformative to someone in the TCG space. Like, what if this person ends up, beating me and then feeling inspired to win their locals or win their DLC, and then they end up playing against me at Worlds or something,
That'd be great.
And I think that we can only create that if everybody in the community creates the time to do those small things. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that we're at the very beginning of it. This is year 1, right? If for this very glimpse in time, I'm player number 1, then I have more of a responsibility to spread that or set that example. So whoever's player number 1 next time and someone else comes up to them and they're like, Zan used to be great. He used to play with all of us. And you were like an introvert who doesn't talk to anybody.
More exclusive, sure.
Yeah, that will it's setting a standard for the next person in line. I don't think I can be number 1 forever.
With that being said, is the Lorcana community going to be seeing you in Australia on February 2nd?
Dude, you know what's crazy? I got a message from Kendall.
Yeah, Burdette?
Yeah, being like, are you going to Australia, mate? And I said,
no, I'm not.
I haven't messaged him.
No, I'm not. It's a really funny thing to say in response.
That was awesome.
Let's go.
That was sick. That was really good. I gotta text him back. Oh God. do I want February? You know, my birthday's on February 1st.
I do know that.
So Australia scares the crap out of me, bro.
Australia shouldn't scare you. What are you talking about?
Mate.
Yeah, all those bugs and.
I've always wanted to go to Australia.
I'm like down.
They have those.
I mean, I'm down to go too. I love traveling.
They have those underground opal mining cities.
Dude,
Cool
we've been on 2 trips back to back, Seattle and Paris, right? And I've been like crazy sick.
Yeah, if the wind blows the wrong direction, you get sick. So we do have a new plan, like a vitamin C regimen.
Oh, yeah,
prepared for this, you know.
I'm already on a vitamin regimen. I'm gonna quadruple down.
You're on the it's like what's the name of the thing that you take?
Brian Williams.
It is Brian Williams.
I'm pretty sure that's his name.
He does like a vitamin supplement. I heard that one's pretty good.
It's called the Blueprint. It's for longevity. It's like a whole thing. I'm not gonna advertise that. I'm not getting sponsored by that.
Okay.
Rabbit hole. Saturday was great. What did we do Sunday? Then?
We went to Disneyland Paris.
Usually when you win tournaments, you go to Disneyland, but we lost the tournament.
I mean, I made it to Worlds, so
that's true. We went to Disneyland because Zan qualified for Worlds.
Yep.
I'm going to Disneyland.
We had an awesome crew, which we did not plan at all, but everything just kind of worked out. So who was the crew?
Yeah, so we it was a whole story. We won't get into how we got there, why we had to go back. Yeah, it wasn't great. But we ended up going with the best crew I think you could find. So it was us, Kawa from the Podkina podcast, his girlfriend Kim. Fiance, significant other, partner.
Congratulations to Kawa.
Yep.
Alphos was there.
Yep.
Jordan was there.
Yep.
Yeah, so we went all around the park. We had like the fast pass situation. We rotated off. So when some people were on the ride, what were the other people doing?
Playing Lorcana.
Were there tables? If you're in Disney World, there's no tables to play Lorcana.
Okay, so Kimberly had this whole fast pass action thing going on where we got to go on our own line where there was a bench, and in that bench we played Lorcana.
Why? Okay, great. That's awesome.
It was crazy. Everybody else was waiting in these crazy lines, and we had no line ever.
Yeah, but it looks like if you guys are sitting there playing a card game, everyone on the regular lines are like, well, at least they're not in that line. I mean, they've been there for all day if they're playing a card game. You know what I mean?
And it just fit. I didn't feel awkward playing there because we're playing a Disney card game in a Disney park.
Right. So somebody looks at me like, what's that? Oh, there's Mickey Mouse. Okay, I get it. Yeah. I get what's going on. Oh, there's Maleficent. Oh, all the stuff went away. Oh, there's a Tamatoa. I guess the game ends when that happens. Makes sense to me. What's to know? Yeah. Some little kid's like, I think I can play this deck. It seems easy. You kill all their stuff. You play Tamatoa. And Ryan's like, I still don't get it all the way necessarily.
How do you win this game? And then we had a great day at Disneyland, and then we bookended the last night of the trip.
Well, we should talk about some of the cool things that we saw there. I want to talk about the Ratatouille area. All right, so the Ratatouille area was phenomenal. The food setup that they had over there was so great. I love that ride. Okay, one thing I want to say about Disneyland Paris, it is so much cleaner than Disneyland LA.
Paris gets a bad rap. People tell me it's like a dirty city. I think after the Olympics, they just like got clean.
I'm telling you, I went in 2015 last time I went, and I completely changed my mind.
Oh, wow. So they got clean sometime recently.
Well,
Disney World is notoriously clean. They have the secret police that clean that place. And
yeah, but everything clean as in everything looked like it was freshly painted. It looked brand freaking new. Everything. I was in shock. I was like, what is happening? All the rides were working perfect. Every ride was just up to date, newest thing ever. I was like, Spider-Man ride is good at Universal, but the Spider-Man ride that they had here, they had a motion detector where you go like this.
Let's tell the viewers the truth. There's a game in the Spider-Man ride.
Right.
So that's why it's Zan's favorite ride.
So a line game or it's in the ride?
No, you shoot webs at spider bots.
Okay.
And you get a high score.
Oh, God. And then you can see everyone else's high score on the day?
But I got the lowest score. But I was like, I would just stay here all day and just play that game over and over again.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
To get the high score and get on the leaderboard.
Yeah, man, I know. Everyone who knows you knows that. That's how you like to do it.
Dude, it was such a good game. And the motion detecting, I had never been on a ride that had such good motion detecting. You went like this, there was webs coming out. It was crazy.
Well, yeah, on fixed points, a lot of the times Disney with their the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, they had like a lightsaber test, motion testing, and they actually had like fixed point sensors. It's like a new technology they developed where it was like they could tell like exactly where your lightsaber was in your hand was because they instead of like a Wii, which catches it from the point of the machine, they basically had a bunch of them. So it was like, and they were communicating via computer. That's like a new tech that like Disney innovated. So it's great. Hopefully that's the one they used for the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, probably. It was so insane.
I'm a tech geek.
The computer looks great.
That's a pre-built, so that's why you wait till you see mine. No, that's great. While you guys were gone, I saw Nick Mullen live. Good, one of the best stand-up comedians doing it right now. That was awesome. It's probably why my podcast discipline's been so low today, because he was obviously in the very successful podcast that I don't want to say the name of. And so this whole time I've been sitting here and been like, yeah, but did you really? I want to be him or whatever.
Mucktown.
You're right.
Yep.
Or whatever. Anyway, so that's what I did. And it sounds like you guys had a great time in Paris. Disneyland, was there anything after that? You know, I heard you guys stayed up late before the ride home.
Yeah, we went to dinner.
Went to a great dinner. It was like the NA versus EU Continental IC 12Cs challenge table.
Yep.
Right?
I mean,
great. Everyone was there.
Moyen was there. Frank Karsten was there.
Whoa, you got to eat with Frank Karsten?
Meister, Kawa.
I had like imposter syndrome. It was great.
Did you like get the check and you were oh man, they don't tip as much in Paris. I wish they did, because you could be like, Frank, what's 20% of 1258 or whatever, and watch.
We didn't ask Frank a bunch of math questions.
You could just ask him a bunch of math questions. Can you tell that I think of him as some sort of bizarre human robot where I'm like, give me the math.
Statistics savant.
You're gonna see him at Worlds.
I'm going to Worlds. This is like, yeah, I'm going with you, obviously.
What?
I just learned that, but I'm also going to be qualified because I'm going to win Continentals.
Yes.
Which I'm not. I don't have a ticket for the LCQ.
But you are on the wait list.
I am first on the wait list, actually, via Nathan.
Basically.
Let's go.
Yeah. Nathan's, great guy. First on the way. Once I get into LCQs, it's going to be over for all you LCQs people. Okay, I will promise you this, viewer. I will sit at my correct table every round.
If there's any TOs that have made it this far in the podcast, just don't number your tables like that.
Yeah.
Lorcana runs into issues sometimes when they reinvent the wheel. They'll come out of the shed and they'll be like, best of 2 format, and everyone's like, no, we don't like it. And sometimes they're like, what about instead of numbers, it's like a number and a color? And so we're like, oh, so the color shows up in MTG Melee, and they're like, no. No, the colors never show up. This is like, it's like a fun riddle. Everyone's like, oh, okay. So Ravensburger, you've done a lot of really great things reinventing the wheel, like with the inking system, but then some things, just try to just ask yourself, a year ago I found myself asking why. All right. I mean, is that everything? I mean, we think that sounds like the podcast to me. Zan, tell them where they can find you.
You're already here.
Wow, Zan. And then Ryan, a little new to the scene, a little bit. This is your chance. Get some, grab some. Tell them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I already have like 1,000 more followers than I did have, but because we went to Europe and I made a lot of new friends.
Let's go.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. That's where I post all my Lorcana stuff. It's at ATL Ryan Walked. I usually show up in a post that Zan does or Jeremy does.
Great.
So you can find me.
Okay. So you can find me on Twitter at MoxJeremy, MoxJeremy, and on Blue Sky at moxjeremy.bluesky. We all got to get blue skies, by the way, everybody.
Oh, I'm going to add one last thing. I'm going to be launching a Metafy soon. So if you guys are interested in more in-depth content, we'll put a link in the description whenever I launch it.
Probably a link in the description of the next podcast to
Yep.
be 100% because we got a lot of work to do, folks.
Yeah.
We can't just have a blank wall here as
What are you sleeping on?
our backdrop.
I'm gonna probably go back to
The mattress
house.
arrives tomorrow. So.
Great. Yeah.
The mattress actually got delivered, but it didn't get delivered here. It got delivered at the other house.
That's
I gotta
not.
go grab
That's
that.
not it.
All right, we should end the podcast first. All right, thank you.